appreciate you dropping all these gems, man, and your love for this culture and the people in this culture really comes through. Really appreciate it. We need people like you, you know, to as ambassadors and as artists to keep this culture thriving. One of the things, as we were talking about style and Dondi, another great legend and friend was Case 2. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Tell me a bit about your relationship with him, his influence on you.
You know, Case was such a magnetic personality, man, a superhero to me. And we spent many, you know, there'd be times, you know, that Bronx Wall of Fame where Tat's crew used to paint the Halloween. It's like 167th at the bottom of the hill, right below the projects. There would be a Halloween mural done there with writers from all over invited. And once the sun went down, everybody would break out because nobody wanted to be in the South Bronx on Halloween, right? After dark. And I would just spend all night just chilling with Case, man. And that dude taught me so much and opened my eyes to so many things, bro. One of the most intelligent, perceptive dudes I've ever met. And I was with him on Rikers Island at one time, and, you know, I went to his crib. Me and a cat named Tommy Rebel from Brooklyn went up to his house one day at his mom's crib where they filmed Style Wars. And what is that? More Houses by Jackson Avenue, Forest Projects over there. And it was like a time capsule. He opened up his closet and was pulling out things from the early 70s, man. And he just gifted me with outlines and photos. And, yo, it was incredible. He still had his gabardine pants with the pleat and the AJ overlaps. And, like, his mom kept everything.
Wow.
So going to his house was not only you were learning from a master, it was a living museum, bro.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, I'm just going to circle back in some of the things that you mentioned, AJs and overlaps. Those were styles of pants, polyester pants that were in fashion in those days. And yeah, that was the look back in them days.
So, you know, some of the nights at the Hall of Fame on 106, just breaking night with Case, man, and just, you know, just being in his presence, man. I'm really blessed that, you know, I might not be the best graffiti writer in the world. I might not have been king of anything, but I was around some of the masters, man. And I was in the right place in the right time to receive certain jewels. And that's why I feel I almost owe it. It's a responsibility to keep this style moving forward, because some of those cats aren't here anymore. And what they gave the world was so important, and it can become watered down and lost over the years. So I'm a real conservative when it comes to graffiti, bro. I'm a traditionalist. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm trying to practice a craft that's been handed down from master to apprentice over the years and keep that going, man. And I'm teaching young kids now, and I teach them the same way I learned. We're not going to switch it up. We're not going to water it down. We're not going to try to call it something it ain't. Because there's enough dudes doing, you know, futurism and street art and whatever. That's cool. But somebody has to keep this thing alive.
And well put, my brother. So in keeping it alive, one of the places in New York on the Lower East Side, you know, that keeps the spirit alive is Jesse with the Rooftop Legends project.
Big EV1. Yeah. I know him since we're little kids too, man. He comes from, remember that picture you put up of the fun gallery?
Yeah.
I told you that the little kid next to Reese wrote KEP FWD. I met all those dudes at the same time. EV was part of that crew. They were called KT, 3M, FWD, and they were a little younger than me, but they did their thing, man. That's where Say So comes from.
Yes,
Everybody, Mike Sticks,
I
right?
was thinking about him. Yeah.
That whole clique, DM1, you know, my man Side, rest in peace. Side Eves was really, really my guy out of that crew. The first one I met was Aber, because he went to Brooklyn Friends School in downtown Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
So Aber was kind of my introduction to that whole clique. But I've known Jesse for so many years, man, and I love what he's doing, that he is creating a space to preserve this thing and really allowing the last of the real style writers. Yeah, he'll bring new cats, he'll bring a cat from Japan, he'll bring some other things in the mix, but it's primarily a space for real New York stylists to continue to practice what we've always done. And space is becoming a commodity, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody wants to let you rock their wall anymore, their handball court. They will bring somebody from Wisconsin and pay them and put them up in a hotel and scaffolding and cherry pickers to rock in Brooklyn before they will hire an actual local artist who's steeped in the tradition of the neighborhood. And it goes hand in hand with a lot of, you know, what's going on, gentrification, and it's a real estate game, man. It's about money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
I would agree with you, and it's interesting that again, the lines blur, right, about what is art. And I mean, that's a whole nother conversation about between what you see as in mural art and graffiti style writing. For those of us who are talented and skilled at style writing and understand the kind of sophistication in terms of lettering and analysis, there's something very different for us in it as an art form that is not accessible to most folks in the way that, for instance, here Montgomery Burns may be, right?
Right.
And that's one of the things in the next couple of slides I want to kind of talk about is that you, over the years, as an illustrator, you've always brought this kind of like comical part to your pieces with you know, these infamous cartoons, but it's not the cartoons that's the center stage, it's the style. And I mean, if you look at this KEO piece, it's absolutely flawless, right? This is a, you know, did it need a cartoon? No. But again, in keeping with your love for cartoons and illustration, it's perfect.
Yeah. Well, you know, animation and Saturday morning cartoons and whatever, that's been a lifelong obsession for me. And maybe I'm just immature, whatever, you know. Maybe I'm a geek, a nerd, but that shit still, and I'm talking about traditional 2D flat animation, not this new crazy shit they got, which I appreciate that as well. But what Max Fleischer was doing, what, you know, Warner Brothers early on, and there's a great new Looney Tunes now, where they brought it back to that classic style. And I don't know if you guys, I think it airs on HBO Max, but I'm watching that like I'm a little kid again, man.
So if you loved it so much, why not pursue a career in animation?
Who told you I'm not?
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, so you got something up your sleeves?
Yeah, man. I stay busy. You know, graffiti informs everything I've done, but I'm not stuck on, this is recreational. You know what I mean? That right there, what you're showing, this pogo piece, that's for fun. That's what I do on a Sunday. Like some cats go and play softball or whatever. You know, this is my thing. But as a vocation, I'm still pursuing creative things, whether it be in the field of writing, animation, whatever. And I don't separate the two because they organically, you know, one comes out of the other. Just like I was saying how rhyming and hip-hop music kind of came out of graffiti style. It's a way of approaching anything you do, right?
Yeah, you know what, and I have a question for you about, you know, your vocation, and I'm going to come back to this painting because to me, yes, this is on the wall, but there's a part of me, for the sake of history, for the sake of archive and preservation, that I would love to see more style writers like you of your caliber do letter pieces on big canvases as in this size. There isn't much of an archive of that, as you know.
Here's the thing. Do you remember the metallurgy show I did?
Absolutely. That was an amazing show. Yeah.
That was my whole concept. We're going to take sheet metal, aluminum, the size of a subway panel, and just do what you do. Don't change it up. Don't artify it. Don't, just do what you do. And they were amazing. And I brought some of the greatest style masters. Your brother was part of it. Chain 3, Stan 153. Incredible writers. Nobody bought them. So what we do, while I love it and it has value, it may not, even to this day, be commercially viable in the established art world.
But that's fine. But that doesn't mean that they still shouldn't be done, rolled up, and put away.
Okay. Where's the Estes collection?
Yeah, that one, for those that don't know, the Sam Estes collection was a collective of, I want to say about 18 artists or something like that painted studio canvases. And the collection was supposed to be kept together. I mean, that's what we were told, and that's what we signed off on. But that remains to be a mystery to this day. But that said, I come back to this argument about people of your caliber and your skill from that period, is that we need good examples for institutions like us at the Museum of Graffiti, or other institutions that will eventually like get hip to the value of this type of art. That's just me, you know. I mean, I'm again, and I'm on the other side of it because I'm really very much into advancing graffiti style writing into that hybrid space of contemporary art. Yeah. But at the heart, I think style writing to me is my first love and true love, and that when I see works like this, these are masterful works.
To me, graffiti was never fine art. Like I said, it was a craft, right? It has geometry, science, it's lettering, it's communication. It's more about function than it is about form. It's not purely aesthetic. It has to communicate. It has to do it. It's either right or wrong. It's good or it's whack, right? Fine art is whatever you want it to be.
No, I think fine art embodies those ideals too. I mean, I know particularly
if done right, yeah.
Yeah, the periods of art that I'm interested in, those young guys were also concerned with some of the same things we were concerned with.
So go back to that fun gallery show, right?
Yeah.
Dondi was doing these incredible technical lettering, you know, and people didn't get it.
Yeah.
TAC, FBA showed these amazing, people didn't get it. The dude who sold out more than anyone else wrote E-R-O. And his shit just looked, to us, to letter guys, it was kind of whack. Amateurish, toy. But it appealed to the buyer, was looking for something primitive, right? It's like when jazz came out. People couldn't accept the sophisticated, scientific, mathematical composition from Black Americans. They wanted to hear gut bucket blues, They wanted to hear raw, you know, oh, he learned how to play his guitar in prison.
Yeah.
They wanted to hear, what's your man? Lead Belly. Not that Lead Belly's not great. There's something to it. But the sophisticated stuff, people kind of, it didn't jive with them. So, like Jean-Michel Basquiat, who was in that show at the Fun Gallery, and those guys at that time, they were not the stars. Keith Haring, Basquiat, they were kind of piggybacking off the celebrity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of the Dondis, the Zephyrs, the Futuras, the names that were ringing bells, right? But Basquiat in particular, hit the sweet spot because he understood what these racist art buyers wanted. They wanted something primitive and savage. Oh, it looks like it's going to jump off the wall and rape my wife. I'll give you $1 million for that. It's scary, ooga booga jungle art. So he was laughing at him because he hid some real science in his art, but he did it so primitively that they could wrap their heads around it. The things that Dondi was showing looked like schematic blueprints. They looked like if you designed a flying ship or you know what I'm saying? They were so far above these people's expectations. They wanted to see untrained 15-year-old kids from the ghetto. They didn't want to be made to feel stupid, right? And cats like Ramel Z, cats like Dondi, they were dealing with a higher mathematics, a higher geometry than the average, you know, art buyer or critic could wrap their minds around. I read one critic wrote this whole thing about calling Ramel Z pseudoscience. Now, pseudo means fake. Why is it pseudo? Because you don't understand it? Come on, man. So, to this day, you got to dumb it down for them. If I want to paint Mickey Mouse with X's in his eyes and smoking a blunt, I could sell that tomorrow. That's easy. It's really easy. But do
you feel by doing characters in your pieces, you soften it up so that it draws people in?
It adds a little accessibility. It's like the door. Like I said, you got to have a key, right? So when I was a kid, I couldn't read these wild style pieces, but I could see, oh, that's Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse got a Kango on. Mickey Mouse is smoking a blunt. And that was something I could relate to. And then it drew me in. Okay, what else is going on?
Right.
What is Mickey Mouse interacting with? Because he's pointing to this incredible aerodynamic armored wild style, right? Let me see what the hell Mickey Mouse is talking about. So it gives it a little accessibility. It softens the edges, but the math is there. The geometry is there. It's like the great jazz musicians, and again, I'm going back to jazz. They'll pause in the middle of something totally avant-garde and give you a few bars of Mary Had a Little Lamb or something that you go, oh shit, yeah, I like that record. And then they'll go right back, boom, and never lose a beat.
Yeah, no, it's interesting you say that because somebody I really admire, Charles Mingus, you know, he was the dude that, you know, at the time was so innovative, but he had to kind of dumb it down a bit. And then when he went completely wild style and just started a whole new complicated structure to jazz, he lost everybody. He lost himself as well. So
they're not ready, man.
And so let me ask you this, and because I like asking writers this to get their opinion. The state of style writing, and again, everyone has their take on this. How do you see the state of style writing today?
It's become so large that we could talk, you know, when I got into it, it was a handful of kids in New York City. It was a very kind of secret society. There were no books. There were no videos.
Right.
You had to have somebody introduce you, teach you, you know, you had to be accepted. So now it's all over the world. So to talk about the state of it, where are we talking about? There's so many it's evolved and branched out, and there's a freight movement that's insane. There's cats in Australia, in Rome, and they each have their own style, you know. So are you talking about what I do, which is New York City traditional subway style?
Yeah.
Again, the cats I see that are really nice with it are the same cats. T-Kid, Part, you know what I mean? Yeah. The same dudes I was looking up to 30 fucking years, 40 years ago. They're still the best. Just like Rakim is still the greatest MC. You're not going to top that. Now, you could do something different and build on it and take it your own direction, but you're not going to beat him at traditional rhyme for rhyme, bar for bar. You're not. And dudes who are still practicing, you know, I'm still trying to burn Dondi, honestly. I haven't invented anything.
You and I both, my friend.
So what are we talking about the future of it? When I caught up with the past.
You know, I say that from a place where I've always, since I was young, I've always gauged it, you know, by the people I was around and the generation that was coming up after me. Because after we had quit, there was kind of a lull, and then the new, in terms of style, and then it just kind of started coming back hard. And now, as I think about style writing today, yeah, there are different schools of style writing, so to speak. And again, you know, region means a lot to a lot of people. Given what we just kind of discussed in this talk and looked at, you know, style writing has, you know, and I include you in this, has evolved, I think for me, further than I could have ever imagined. But it kind of, the difference is, I think, for those of us a little closer to the period, we were looking to burn and learn and burn, perhaps. Like you said, Dondi, you know, I think.
Here's the thing. I take boxing now, right? And I'm a little old for it, but I like to challenge myself and learn things. Now, being that I'm still a beginner, a student, right? I'm studying the basics. Cuban style, 3-punch combination. Keep it simple, right? Basic footwork, head movement. If I try to add some new shit, I'll get knocked the fuck out. So I got no business. If you haven't mastered the foundation, the basics, proper letter shape, you got no business trying to add something new to it. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
I'm still trying to get my wheel to be round.
Right.
If you notice something, every time I do an O, at about 2 o'clock, I put a crack coming in. And that's because I have an injury in this shoulder, in my rotator cuff. So when I try to scribe a large circle, when I hit a certain point, it goes click, right? So that's my style. It comes from my physical body. It's like a signature. You can't forge my style, but it's natural to me. It's not because I was trying to invent something new. I was trying to do a perfect circle. I just fucked it up. So a lot of the things that I saw Part or Knock, and I benched all those early burners. See, I benched everything at Atlantic Avenue. I cut school every day and sat on that bench and watched all that shit come in brand new. And a lot of the things that I tried to copy were just happy accidents. They were mistakes. He got a drip over here, so he decided to cover it with white shine, right? Now everybody's doing white shines in their piece, not realizing that that was improvised. on the spot. So I'm not trying to do anything revolutionary. I'm trying to just, like I said, every jazz player who plays Mary Had a Little Lamb,
yeah,
it's not going to come out exactly the same.
right. But here's the thing that I love about style writing, though, is that it has, I think, so much that's revolutionary. One, again, if we kind of just go into the macro, right, as we think about painting and contemporary painting and abstract painting, maybe things that we've seen in the past, you know, these qualities, these really unique things as we come into the macro, whether it's just for the, you know, the sake of design or some kind of abstraction, that there's so much room to grow. And that's why we're seeing so many iterations of style writing kind of mixing in with other periods of art, and all other types of typography as well. And it completely fascinates me how far it goes, right? And even, you know, I remain the purist, just, and I get where you're coming from, because in order to move it forward, in particular with sculpture, the first sculptures were a result of wanting to burn Dondi and Kell and Knock, because those guys had already quit. And while I could have gone abstract with it, I kept it traditional because it was so important to emphasize what we were doing in this traditional format in a physical form. And that, to me, that's the genius of some of this style writing, is as you analyze it, like, for instance, how that, you know, the space between the K and the E, right? Like, all this technical shit is, to me, that's the stuff that gets me really most excited about it, because it reveals so much, right? And it opens up opportunity for interpretation and pick and choose your format. And that's what we're seeing today, that you got writers like Dash who go really, really into the macro, into the simple parts of it that connect back to its history. You know, so.
But at the end of the day, it's geometry, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It goes back to ancient Kemetic arts.
So in the next part of this talk, you know, I'm going to give you space to give people the nuts, and also to take some questions from folks. I want to thank everybody who's joined us tonight with KEO. A lot of friends have joined us. I see you guys out there. Please give us some questions for KEO. Sen One says, "What's up?"
Peace, Sen.
So KEO, when you think about as you're getting older as an artist.
Oh, there's a question.
There you go.
Do you think the most important part of pieces is hand style? Is that what it said?
Yeah.
It scrolls so fast, I lost it.
Yeah.
It all starts with your tag. And whether you're using a chisel tip, right, like a calligraphy pen, or a uni-wide, mini-wide, it's going to get thin on the strokes going this way and thicker on the strokes going down, right?
Yeah.
I used to practice with 3 fingers on the shower, you know, the glass. And
Yeah.
Up, or a matchbook, because it gives you really thin going this way and really thick going that way. So when you build out a piece, you use those same principles, even for a curve. Why does it get thinner in certain places? And this is something that Dondi really had, man. You look at some of his subtle curves that just do this, and they get thicker on the bottom and thinner on the top. And it is built off of a tag.
La Debut asks, what projects are you currently working on?
Oh man, I'm multitasking right now. I think this current economy, this whatever COVID-19, has given me a chance to visit a lot of things that I was putting off in the past. I'm writing a novel. I'm working on some screenplays. I have an animated series, adult animation, that I'm pitching. And I teach a class.
Tell us where you teach.
Right now it's on the Zoom platform because, you know, social distancing. We used to do it, and it's with young kids. If you're 35, don't call me asking to learn graffiti. I'm sorry. You're done. I like to start around 8 years old. That's when I started, okay? And 40 years later, I haven't mastered this shit. So if you're 30 and you're deciding you want to be a graffiti writer, oh man. But anyway, what was my point? Yeah, I teach kids. My youngest is 6, my eldest is 13, and they're doing great. They're learning the way I learned. You start with your tag, then your bubble letter, then your block style, basic shadow, 3D, you know. And I do a lot in a day, man. I do a whole lot in a day. And,
Chino BYI asks, do you have a style message for the pit bull?
A massage for your pit bull. Chino's pit bull, you know, has some hip issues, and we've been trying to straighten that out. So older pit bull, but you know,
got you. Another question. Favorite
that's
paint?
An inside joke.
A side joke. Favorite paint from back in the day.
A cat hit me up. Actually, I got a voicemail, and he said, "Yes, I am friend of Chino." I don't know where he's from, Europe somewhere. He said, "I would like for you to give a style massage for the people." I had to call Dave. I'm like, "Yo, Chino, is this your man? I think he wants me to massage his pit bull." But it was actually a style message for the people.
Yeah.
What that means, I don't know.
Yeah. Destuno's asking where you got the name KEO.
I broke that down early on. You probably missed it. My birth name, my first name is Blake, B-L-A-K-E. So I wanted to write Blake 1. B-L-A-K-E-O-N-E, right? But somebody already had that name. So the older cats discouraged me from writing that. They said, you can't write that. So I took the K-E-O out of the middle because it doesn't mean anything. So it was a name that all the good names were taken by the time I started. So it's the key to the cipher. You understand?
Yeah.
You got to have a key.
So KEO, one of the things I liked from the previous talk that we had earlier was you were talking about style, right? And how Queens style, Brooklyn style,
massage style.
Yeah, and Graffiti Art Collector asks, what is a Brooklyn hand style? What are the distinguishing characteristics, if any?
Well, early on, see, the first Brooklyn hand styles I saw with a lot of flavor to them were gang writing. And the tomahawks used to make their T look like a tomahawk. And then Flint 707 started doing it as his F, right? And they called it a helicopter F. So, whereas cats from Washington Heights and graffiti started in Manhattan, don't get it twisted. A lot of people say South Bronx, whatever. Graffiti started along the one line in Upper Manhattan. And those cats generally, and I'm making a generalization here, they printed very plain and legible.
Yeah.
Joe 121, right? Joe 207. And it was straight, no style. Super, super perfectly block letters, right? Brooklyn cats were doing these spirals and curly cues on their letters and started putting eyeballs in the O's. Everybody in the first generation was Cool Something, right? Or Dr. Bad, or they had these long-ass names. All those ex-Vandals cats that I looked up to, their name was like Undertaker Ash, Friendly Freddy, King of Cools. Nobody had, even uptown, you had Bluebeard, Stay High. They were long-ass names, and they did a lot of swirls. So by the time I got into the game, cats were doing shorter names for their throw-ups, usually 2 letters or 3 letters. And it was so it could be executed quickly. because the train lines had become so crowded that it was a race for space. The first generation, they had all the time and space in the world, man. There were no fences on the yard. They could walk in broad daylight and write whatever the hell they wanted. By the time I got into it, it was already like third generation. That's why a lot of cats put a 3 after their name. HE3, DS3. The cat who taught me on my block, he was a FMD crew. He wrote CP3, Crazy Pete though. Crazy Pete, rest in peace. And there was a BB3 in my neighborhood, Bugs Bunny 3, right? So they had long names. They had shortened them for the throw up and put the number 3 after.
A little tidbit for you. In '77, when I was a toy writing, I had a tag DEO2, which
deodorant.
Which I bit, and then I also bit Fee 3 from Fee 5, who wrote in my neighborhood. But anyway, I have a question here. Is there any from 301 Golden Kid? Anyone you really wanted to write with but never had a chance to?
Oh man, so many. You know, KMS crew, Brooklyn and Queens. The double R line is so important. It never really goes into Upper Manhattan. It just goes from Queens through Lower Manhattan into Brooklyn. So there was a style that developed between Astoria and Sunset Park and Bay Ridge and my neighborhood down Union Street, that their throw-ups were different. Also the L line and the J and the M, which would come all the way from East New York into the Lower East Side. You had the TOP crew, destroying with bubble letter, 2-letter throw-ups, and that influenced Lower Manhattan. So you can see the connection between Queens style, Brooklyn style, and Lower East Side style that you're not going to find up in the BX.
Sofarock asks, between 75 and 85, who are the most slept on writers? The ones who weren't in the books, etc.
Oh man, there's so many.
So many, right?
It's Dr. Pepper's birthday today, right? Happy birthday,
shit.
Dr.
Peps. He was one of my partners too.
That guy wrote Code. He wrote Fact.
Yeah.
He wrote Keno, Keno, which I was biting a little bit. This dude had so many top to bottoms, and nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
The TKA crew.
That was my crew. The cool artists.
What about Dell and Moose 106? Do you know how many cars these dudes had? And nobody talks about them. That's just IRTs.
Yeah.
If we get into the BMTs and INDs, there's so many forgotten, slept-on dudes.
For sure.
That were nasty. Rappel is a style master, bro. You'd be hard to find even photos of his work.
Rappel and Kato, those guys from Brooklyn.
They were from Ridgewood. Yeah. Psycho and Kick, who I did on that bus, man.
Yeah.
These dudes did major damage, bro, and totally slept on. You know, there's Scrap, Kato, what was the other cat from that crew? These dudes, the boys, TB was their crew. Tuberculosis crew. Nasty, deadly like tuberculosis. Baby 168, thank you, Alan Cat.
Yeah.
Truly underrated style master.
I would agree.
To me, Sonic 002 is so fucking underrated in the history of this thing. I've heard Case 2, may he rest in peace.
Yeah.
Give him props. Yo, he invented that folding letter style. I'm going to do it, but I'm going to flip mine like this.
Right.
So those cats were way out in Far Rockaway and developed their own thing that Ramel Z brought to Harlem and TDS and the next generation of TDS, like A1 and these cats. They were doing a Far Rockaway style from the BAD crew. And those were some of the first writers I met. Ink 76 used to be in my neighborhood. Yeah. He was at FMD, Filthy Mad Dogs. I think now he's patched over to the Dirty Ones. Big up Ink 76. That cat was one of the first real writers that I met that took me under the wing and showed me some things, man.
It was amazing. I remember seeing that Sonic whole car just after it was finished in Utica layup and being up close to it. And I remember Dondi had some beef with him, I think, at that one point, but he wouldn't cross. That's the one thing I got to say about Dondi. Even though we had beef with people, and even with TMT, we would never cross out their masterpieces. But Sonic, it was ill because he had been doing that. Also, if you look at early Crash pieces from like 78, 77, you'll see that ribbon style as well.
Avon mentioned Magoo too, and that's very, very important.
Another legend.
That cat spans generations, you know, and he's not mentioned as being as influential as he should have. And there were a whole lot of cats from that particular crew. Venom 2 is nasty, and nobody mentions it. Python, all those cats that Too Smart from my neighborhood.
It seems like there was always a heavy. It seems like there was always a heavy, kind of a heavier public interest in what was happening in New York, in New York at that time, in Manhattan and in the Bronx, when it came to.
Here's my theory behind that. Because I was a little tiny white boy benching in Livonia Avenue. And I never took a photograph because I got robbed from my camera. I believe that the reason the IRTs got as much light as they did is because Henry and Martha and those people who were professional photographers could safely, there were places in Upper Manhattan and even in the Bronx where you could go on a rooftop and get a clear flick of the elevated IRTs. You could capture those people. You could go to 125th and snap the ones. You could not go to Livonia Avenue.
No.
So I don't care who you were. You had to have gunmen with you.
Yeah.
So the photographs do not exist.
Yeah. It's funny because in them days, and I'm thinking about the time like between 77 and 80 when we were going up there with Duro and Dondi and those guys. East New York, Brooklyn was just as dangerous as the South Bronx, if not worse at certain times, right?
It was as burned down, and so was Bushwick.
Yeah.
So was Southside Williamsburg.
Yeah.
It was decimated. People talk about 1977, the blackout, the Bronx is burning, Yankee Stadium, Son of Sam. That story has been told a million times. But the same riots were going on in Bushwick, in East New York, in Brownsville. Everything was burnt out.
Yeah. When you take the J line all the way up, I mean, that's what you would see, just a vast wasteland.
Just broken.
And also, as you talk about underrated people, I mean, you had Hearst, out there in Brooklyn,
Thank you. Slave, Hate 168, and Hearst.
Yeah.
Are three cats who are totally responsible for my stylistic development. And I think Dondi would have said the same thing. I don't speak for that brother, rest in peace.
Yeah.
But there's a book where he essentially says that in writing. Zephyr interviewed him. You can pick up the book. It's called Dondi White Style Master. He talks about those being his specific influences. And those cats are not mentioned in film or books.
No.
And
Don won also. Don was.
There were two Dons that were nasty. There was the one writing with Solid Bot Don Riff.
Right.
That was a different Don. And there was Don from Queens, and they were both totally nasty, man. Dean BYB.
Yeah.
Changed the game with throw-ups, with wild styles. There's a million cats that we can talk.
And to his credit too, he was an amazing hand style writer. Let's
talk about Gene 13.
Gene 13. That's another writer I wrote with back. He lived near me, my projects uptown. Yeah.
Hey,
his photo collection. His photo collection has a
revolutionary style.
Yeah, he did have a unique style. Him and Bill Blast, who also writes Wise, they were partners for a while as well. But yeah, he was introducing a very different style that I thought was really being kind of influenced maybe from Queens or something, but maybe not. But But
I see a little Sonic 002 in there too. He was
there's something
style.
about these guys.
What people don't understand, they talk about Bronx style, Brooklyn style, Queens style. The subway ran through every borough.
Yeah.
We had these magnet schools, specifically, you know, printing, aviation, art and design, music and art, performing arts, Bronx science. Cats from every borough were meeting at the age of 13 and exchanging ideas. Even dudes from Philly were coming to. Philly is 2 hours away.
Yeah.
People say, oh, it started in Philly. Oh, it started. Philly is like a fucking a sixth borough. So I had dudes on my block that moved from south side of Philly and brought that whole style with them. They could box better than anyone in my neighborhood. And they were some of the early hip hop cats too.
Yeah.
So
and I love that you paid reference to them in that drawing with the top 126 tag, because he's noted as one of those guys that brought the style over.
And it's funny, you talk to the Philly cats, the old Philly heads, Cornbread and so forth, and they're like, Cat wasn't nobody. He was he wasn't up. But once he came here, he brought something we hadn't seen before. So I was able to do that in that I wasn't a king of nothing in New York, but I traveled. I went to Newark and influenced a whole generation of cats, giving them outlines.
Right. Get into that, because somebody else mentioned that on the thread about your story in Newark.
I lived in a place called Scudder Homes, and it was an abandoned project in Newark, and all the windows knocked out. Mm-hmm. And I was writing with some cats out there called VOS.
What year was this, if you don't mind?
I met these dudes in Washington Square Park, and I was pretty much homeless at the time. So they saw that I had some style. I'm going to say this was 85 or 6. They saw that I had some style, and they wanted to get on in the graffiti game, but they felt like they were, second city because the subway didn't come to Newark. So I was kind of a link to a real authentic style for them. They were already airbrushing sweatshirts and T-shirts in downtown Newark on Broad and Market Street. So they brought me in and gave me a job. And Hakeem put me to stay with his cousin who wrote Cuz, C-U-Z, in Scudder Homes. They gave me, I slept on the couch, and we airbrushed, and we did, we used to make $100 to $150 a day in 1985, just having fun, airbrushing T-shirts, sweatshirts, smoking blunts all day, and that's where I met, Tame One, Porn. All those cats were like the younger generation of Newark writers. They became the group, the Artifacts. I remember meeting Redman when he was a little kid. I think Tame One and Redman are cousins, but everyone in Newark is cousins, okay? So we did a documentary that aired on Channel 13. I didn't want to really be in it. I kept trying to hide my face. I didn't like cameras. Here's a funny story. You know the scene where you're at the bench in Style Wars?
Yeah. I
was with CES 157. My first year, freshman year in high school, when they were shooting that. And Seth was like, yo, come on, they're making a movie. He wanted me to go with him. And I was like, I don't want to be on camera. I turned it down. And there's a scene where he's that's CES 157 on the rooftop with Scheme. And he's prompting Scheme. He's tell him what you did last night.
Right. Okay, that's him.
Right. We called him Dumb Mike. That was my man. You remember the Sensation Mike car? He wrote Mike. Mm-hmm. That Sensation that you just showed, it had a next to it that was like block style, ice blue, see-through 3D. That was CES 157. So him and Scene TC5, took king of the 2s and 5s on the insides with green ink. And that green ink was supplied by a cat from my neighborhood who wrote Phase 5, F-A-S-E, with a Roman numeral, a V, 5, TNT crew. And his name was Randy, like your brother. So, yeah, there was connections to all of that. But my point is, every time somebody came out with a camera, I used to hide. I didn't want my face on film. Now I kick myself because anybody who came out in that movie or that book, you can basically market yourself as, yeah, I'm the legendary, I'm the godfather of graffiti. No, you ain't. You just happen to be in the right place at the right time. There was 30 other cats nastier than you.
Yes.
Just didn't want to be on camera.
Yeah.
So when I went out to LA, and this is 87, I linked up with the UTI crew, Under the Influence.
Big up UTI, yeah.
And they taught me how to scribe buses. They were the first guys I ever seen do scratchiti. They used to have these metal, what you would engrave jewelry with. Like if you wanted to write your name on your Makita drill so nobody would steal it,
yeah,
they used to carry those things. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And we'd hang out at the bus stop. And when the bus pulled up, everybody would bum rush the bus and scratch the windows. And then I met a cat named Skate from CBS, Aaron.
Yep.
And man, we had adventures out there, bro. The stories I could tell. That's a movie I'm writing.
I bet. So
yeah, we were wild for the night.
We're coming down to our final minutes, we could rap all day long with you, man. And I just want to like really sincerely, on behalf of the museum, thank you for taking the time with us to share your story and your work.
Thank you.
Thank you for your commitment, you know.
You're one of the few people that could do this. Not a lot of people even give a shit. Well, really, at the end of the day. We're talking about nerds.
We're lifers.
Real geek.
You know, in a way. But these stories matter, right?
Nerd shit.
These
you're
things,
one of a handful of people who can understand some of this.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting because you name names and things that trigger things in me, you know, and I'm sure it's triggering things in other artists and other people who are listening. And
yes, as we sign off, I'm pulling out my black book because I'm hyped right now.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate that because those names, although people don't know who they are, that we may be talking about, they remain dear and, you know, important to us. And that's fine. The rest of the world doesn't need to know. Look, the rest of the world, so many people in the world don't even know who the hell Picasso is, so it doesn't even matter. But for us as a culture that's growing and maturing, the stewardship is kind of is important, right? And that's what we've chosen.
So let me pose one more thing, and I know we got to close. How many 12-year-old kids around the world, Australia, Japan, whatever continent, worldwide, are practicing cubism right now?
None.
Okay.
Not that I know.
So how many are practicing what your brother and Dondi said to the world?
Yeah.
Right now, there's a brand new crop of 12-year-old kids deciding they want to start writing, picking their name, practicing their style. So this is far more influential than George Braque and motherfucking Pablo Picasso.
Yeah.
Big up them, respect to them. But they didn't shake up the world.
Yeah.
They didn't
this is now and forever. And that's the one thing that I think we are acknowledging and realizing, and that we have fortunately, unlike those other cultures, they didn't have the technological means to advance their culture. This kind of technological means allows us to advance the culture because we're sharing stories and documenting stories that can be referenced, you know, now and forever. But, you know, like you said, young people, you're a teacher of young people. You're passing on the science. And, you know, that's a very admirable thing to do. That's a gift. That's a blessing.
I got a responsibility, man. Cats taught me for free.
Yeah.
Just for the love of it, man. They took me under the wing. They protected me. They taught me about life lessons, not just style, about how to carry myself as a
That's
man
right.
in this world. So I have a responsibility. I owe them a debt of gratitude I can never repay, man. If I let this thing die, I'd be doing a dishonor to Case 2, to Stan 153, to Ram LZ, to Dondi, to Is the Wiz. Rest in peace, my man. You know, these cats, Hurst, Mickey, we have to carry on what they laid down, or it dies with us, man. And everything becomes a virtual video game. That you can't do graffiti on a Zoom platform. Go find you a freight train. Go find you a steamship. Go hit that dude Elon Musk got a space shuttle. Go hit that. Hit something real that moves. Go hit SpaceX and take your name to fucking Pluto.
It's going to happen. Trust me, it's going to happen. Listen, so we'll leave it at that, man. Thank you for your prolific thoughts. And you and I will catch up on the other side. I want to thank everybody that hung in there with us today. Great 2 hours with KEO. And this will be reposted for y'all to see again. And I want to thank you all again for tuning into our art talks at the Museum.
I got you, Dante. I got you, man.
What up, Dante? All right. Big up, Mr. Trickster. Good night, everybody.
And hey, peace to Annabella Shiora.
Annabella's
we love
in the house.
you.
What's up, girl?
We love you. A huge supporter and great friend of this art form and a real Brooklyn head.
True that. Good stuff, brother. Cuídate.
Peace. 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 Thank you.